Hello and welcome to Brand and Becoming. I'm Keisha Sheikh and I'm so glad that you can join me here. Each week, I share practical strategies and tips to help you build a trusted personal brand, stand out, and attract better clients with confidence. Some episodes it's just me, and other times I'm joined by incredible guests with amazing stories who have built careers, businesses, and personal brands on their own terms. So let's settle in and get into today's conversation, and welcome to episode 7. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by Minsok Park, VP of Sales at Looper Insights, with an impressive career spanning senior commercial leadership and partnerships across tech and media. So I will bring Minsok in now. Hi,
Hey,
Minsok, how are you?
Mitchell. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Really excited to talk to you. I know when we've chatted before, you've got lots of stories across the years and experience of kind of what you've been doing. So really excited to get into it.
Happy to be here.
Perfect. So to start us off, can you just tell us a little bit about your career journey and I suppose what led you to doing what you're doing now?
Sure. So I actually started my career in finance. So I graduated LSE with finance degree, and my father was an investment banker, and I always thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Kind of unfortunately for me, I graduated and joined the kind of the working world during the credit crunch, just afterwards. And as you can imagine, it was a tough time for the rest of the globe, but it was a very tough time for the banking and finance industry.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
it was a bit brutal, but on hindsight, I think it was a very formative way to enter into the working world. But during the time, I started off doing something that I actually really enjoyed doing. But as the situation evolved, I moved into from front office um, to sales to middle office, and there's parts of the jobs I wasn't really enjoying. And I think the light bulb moment came for me when I realized, I don't have to stay in this industry. And I
Yeah,
took some time while I was working to try and figure out which industry do I really want to move to if I did want a career change. I think one of the things people get scared about is making career changes. I think especially early on in life, it's okay. I'm not going to ask a 21-year-old me or even sometimes younger, right? So a
mm,
16, 17-year-old, when you're picking your A levels, what degree you want to do, what you're going to do after university, we're probably not going to trust the 21-year-old to decide our career paths for us. And this is what a lot of people are doing, including myself.
yeah,
So being able to kind of take that leap of faith and pick a new industry to move to, I think that was the kind of transformative journey for me. And ever since I made that conscious decision, since then I've been um, working in this connected TV device, media, uh, commercial leadership space for over a decade, and yeah, been happier since.
well, that's amazing. And like you say, it's so hard when you are trying to choose what you're going to do for your A levels or degree because you're
Yeah,
not in the working world and you don't usually just know what your parents have told you or what family members told you, but you don't actually know the reality, do you? So I think it's brave. Well, it's very brave of you at that point to even make those changes because it was kind of unknown, wasn't it? And I think there's a lot more out there now, almost education wise, to help younger people, I suppose, see the opportunities or be able to pivot or make change. But I think before there wasn't, was it? It was almost like, is this the right decision? Is it not? I don't really know, but it's just almost trusting your gut and that, you can make a change. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to what you were doing. But I think if you're wanting to do something different, then go for it, which is
it's
clearly
never
it's
too
worked for
late.
you.
It's never
Yeah.
too late.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I suppose that throughout your career, as you moved into more senior roles, what skills or behaviours have became, or would you say, most important for your progression? Because it's one thing, isn't it, starting in a role, maybe not having all the responsibilities, but as you've progressed, what skills or behaviours have you had to work on, or have you kind of realised that are really important in leadership roles?
That's a very good question. So since I left the finance industry, I worked through LG Electronics, Bang& Olufsen, Vida, and now Looper Insights. And throughout that time, I think what I'm doing hasn't materially changed too much. It's not about the
Mm,
skill set. It's more about going from different altitude from each career step. And in the beginning, it's definitely more about your individual performance. How can you drive performance? And I think that is something that people need to focus on. But as you go through that, it becomes from a personal performance to being able to lead the company's performance. That becomes more important. You go from like individual contributor um, to needing better judgment, and then later on becoming a builder in some sense, architecting systems and making performance be able to scale across the organization for everyone that works for you. So,
Yeah.
if I were to sum it up, at first it's about being good at what you do on your own, and that's it.
Yeah.
Very important. But not everyone is good at what they do. You know, it's a cliche thing. Not everyone becomes a good leader. I think
Oh,
once
100%. It's such a
step
different skill, isn't it?
100%. I think once you step into the leadership role, it's less about you. It's more about how can you help other people be good at what they do, and that's a very similar thing, but it's a complete different shift change, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose when it's just you, you're in control of your work ethic or kind of what you deliver and kind of deliver, well, I suppose quality, that type of thing. Have you at any point found it difficult when maybe not everyone has worked the same as you to kind of get the most out of them, realizing I suppose everyone's different, and how have you navigated that part? Because I think that's one of the hardest things, I suppose, isn't it, about being a leader? It's realizing that everyone's different and maybe they're not all going to be clones of you, even though that would be nice at times. It's just not realistic.
100%. So I've been in both ends, right? I've been
Yeah.
in companies where people might not appreciate individuality, and then they
Hmm.
expect you an image of myself because I'm a good leader is going to be a good stuff kind of dynamic. And then there's some people who actually genuinely does this really well. And some of my people I'm honored to call mentors have been really good at spotting people's individual skill sets, their strengths and weaknesses, because we're all different. So I
Yeah.
think one of the analogy that I've talked with the team is if we hire someone to be a great musician, whether that's sales, marketing, your field doesn't really matter. There is multiple different kind of musicians with there's guitarists, drummers, pianist. Uh,
Yeah.
we hire someone to be a great musician and say, oh, why are you so bad at playing the piano? Oh, but I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
I need you to play the piano, and then try to get them to force them to do things in a way that doesn't come naturally for them. But if you
Hmm.
recognize that I'm sorry, I'm using a bit of a childish analogy, but if you
No, I
recognize
like it. Yeah.
that they're a great drummist and let them perform in the way they can, you're always going to get the best out of them, and they're going to feel more fulfilled, and ultimately everyone's going to perform better and be happier for it.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's a really good analogy because it is like they're really good at what they do, so let them be really good at that, let them flourish at that, and not try and push them into all these different things that maybe they're not going to enjoy. They're not going to be able to reach their potential because they're maybe not happy, or that's just not what they want to be doing, or just not their style either.
Yeah, I think the nuance comes in from, so you want to help them become better at what they do in their own way, but
Yeah.
there needs to be some guardrails where it's just universally things stopping them going in the wrong direction, or helping them guide them towards a better direction. I
Yeah.
think that has to exist.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose having the guidance, and I suppose you steering them in the right direction, because if they are on the completely wrong path or not quite doing, I suppose, what you want them to do, or they're not, in terms of what the company goals are, I suppose it's important that you are still steering them, and I suppose helping them get the most out of their skills as well, and honing them.
Yeah, so I think the difficulty is understanding what's okay within the kind of margins of individuality and what
Yeah.
is not okay. And it sounds obvious, but sometimes it's not as obvious as that.
No, I totally agree. And have you found that a little bit more difficult now with things like remote working or hybrid working? Because I suppose you can't always have that face-to-face time, or are you still getting that face-to-face time often?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a question of is it more or less difficult,
Hmm.
because while we get less face time, given the kind of the world we live in, we end up actually spending a lot more time together virtually,
Yeah.
like we're doing now over
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas in a company, you might have less interactions with someone that's 2 floors below you, for
Yeah,
example.
that's so true. Yeah.
So
I think
there is
that's
a
a
lot
good way
more
to look at
interaction.
it.
It's just the interaction changes, and being able to pick up signals. It's it's a different way of working, should I say, rather than
Yeah.
it's more or less difficult.
Yeah, totally. And I suppose for you personally, was there a moment when you realized that being good at your job alone was not enough to keep progressing your career?
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone comes to that point. It, I think once you, if especially if you're trying to step up, it's not
Yeah.
just about you individually. It's not. I like to take this into two different directions. One is being good at what you do is not enough, and also
Mm,
being good at what you do on your own is not enough. You end
yeah.
up needing your network and your people around you to also perform with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's one thing is it being good, but if like your team isn't isn't on the same wavelength, but also people don't, like you said, your network don't know about you, that type of thing, and you want to progress. If you're not that first about progressing, and that's totally fine as well, because everyone's got different goals. But if you do want to progress, then I suppose there's more that comes into just being good at your role.
Yeah.
And I suppose that leads me on to building a personal brand. How would you say building a personal brand or being visible has influenced the opportunities you've had in your career? I suppose that can be two parts, both with kind of new career and not roles for you, but also has it helped you with attracting and winning clients from a sales point of view as well, building your personal brand?
Yeah, sure. I think this also kind of ties in with your previous question a little bit as well. But
Yeah.
personally, I didn't actually take any conscious effort initially in my early career to build a personal brand per se. And
It wasn't as much of a thing back then, was it? I suppose it was just you were just doing it if you wanted to push yourself or if you wanted to get the new roles.
yeah, I think it's just it was more of a personality thing. People were
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
more visible than others. When I come to personal brand, in my view, I don't know. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. But in my view, there's two main facets to it. I think one is how visible you are, and the second
yeah,
is how credible you are. I think there's a
yeah,
lot of
love that.
focus and spotlight on people wanting to be more visible. Um, so you asked me about building my personal brand. So, like I mentioned, I didn't take any conscious or deliberate effort towards it. But
Hmm.
looking back, I think what I have done without realizing is building that credibility side of my personal brand. I might not be the
Yeah,
most visible person online, the loudest, but I have formed long-lasting and deep relationships. It's not just surface level networking, which is also very important in some job functions. But I think having built that credibility, and then once you get there, and it's going to take a long time. It's something that um, you're never too late to start. You need to start somewhere. You just
yeah.
need to be a bit patient. It's not something you can rush. Genuine connection is something that happens over time and over lots of interactions. And then once you start adding visibility on top, that's probably the best approach to it. Instead of just trying to go after visibility from the beginning.
Oh, totally. Well, I really agree with you there, and I think that's where a lot of people can get it wrong now because it is almost a buzzword of personal brand or visibility, which is it's great, but I'm with you on you don't just want to be visible all the time, but posting nonsense or posting things that are nothing to do with your career, and that ends up sometimes doing the opposite. And I think it's for me it's good to show who you are and build that credibility because you don't need to be extrovert, you don't need to be loud and I wouldn't say I'm loud, but I am posting content and I am visible and hopefully building credibility by adding value. But I think what's happened is you almost attract people or kind of attract your network that relate to you or they kind of feel bought into who you are kind of authentically as well. But definitely credibility is a big part of it because it all comes down to perception,
Yeah.
what people think of you or what people say about you when you're not in the room is what I always say. It's kind of what do people think of you? What is the perception of you? Because that's your job to kind of build. And it's not about changing who you are, or like I say, it's not about being the loudest person, but it's about being credible, building those relationships, but also sharing value, sharing your story. And I think where people are maybe doing it wrong, and it's okay, so everyone's experimenting, but it's just posting stuff that has nothing to do with what they're doing just for views because that's always think about the goal. What do you want to be known for? And who do you want to be working with? And if what you're posting doesn't align with those things, then maybe you're not building your personal brand intentionally.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I mentioned that I want to tie this back to your previous question because
Yeah.
when it comes to visibility, it's also within the company as well, right? So you asked
Yes.
me, when do you realize that being good personally, it's not good enough? And when did that stop being enough? And
Yeah.
what was the next steps? One of the things I find is in early stages of career, if you're outperforming and if you're good, your performance speaks for itself. you have your line manager, they have their line manager, and you have your review system, and it filters up. And in some ways, you don't need to do much more than just be good at what you do.
Yeah.
But you get to a level where performance alone doesn't manage your perception, or doesn't. People don't know what they don't know. So just
Yeah.
because you're delivering, if no one knows that you're delivering, it gets lost in the ether. So it's not about being visible, about bragging about what you have done or trying to paste it everywhere, but there needs to be some kind of quality communication to
Yeah.
make people realize what you have done, and then the rest of the organization understand the value you're bringing. And I think that can be a bit of a shift if you're not used to it. But
Hmm.
the further up you get, kind of self promotion sounds like a bit of a dirty word, but there needs to be a bit of self promotion in there, so people understand the value you're bringing. Don't expect people to just understand if it's never been communicated.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good tip there, because 100% personal branding isn't just external. It's about what you're doing internally, day in, day out, because that's how people are going to build that perception of you, and see that you're credible, and seeing that you're kind of doing some great things. And like you say, people, if you don't tell anyone, or if it's not kind of communicating internally, then how are they going to know? Have you got anything, or any ways that you've done that internally? Has it been kind of anything that you've done to show, I suppose, show what you've been up to, or kind of what you've been achieving, in a
Mhm.
way that feels not, well, I suppose in a way that feels good to you, but also is getting the message across?
I think the easiest and natural way to do it is to have good alignment. If
Yeah.
you're aligned from the beginning, so if you're entering into a new project or a new task, align with multiple stakeholders, bring them into you. So it's not just you doing everything. You're working together as a group.
Yeah.
You're kind of creating this collaborative energy where everyone's involved. They know you're leading this initiative, and naturally, that is a great way to get everyone to know what you have done
Yeah.
without talking about it. Yeah, I think
That's a
early
good one.
alignment and alignments throughout uh, does the job for you naturally,
Yeah.
on most
that-
cases.
no, that's great. And I think a really great, I suppose, piece of advice there is, it's not just external, it's what people think of you internally, and that you're actually sharing the kind of great stuff that you are doing to build that credibility, and so it's build that trust as well, that you are kind of good at what you do, you're reliable. Those things as well go a long way, don't they?
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a, I suppose, segment now, which is called brand truth or brand myth. So it's essentially, is it the truth in your opinion, or is it a myth?
Okay.
So
This is about personal branding, or
well, you'll see. There's three different ones. So first one is, you need to be loud to stand out. Is that, based on what we just said? I think I know what the answer is for you. But brand truth or brand myth?
I'll say 90% myth.
Yeah, and
10%
why?
it gets you short term impact if you're loud. Obviously,
Yeah,
loud brands, whether we're talking about personal branding or just brands in
yeah,
general.
yeah,
Yeah, people say there's there's no such thing as bad press kind of thing.
yeah,
So yes, it does work, but that can't be it. There needs to be substance underneath. So 90%
totally.
I'll say, but 10% it does get some early impact.
And I suppose it's, if you are being loud, then make it intentional, and make it tie back into what you want to be known for. Don't just be loud for being loud's sake.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
So the next one, so is it a truth or a myth? Personal branding and is only for founders.
I would say it's a myth. Um, you know, not all founders are. For example, like I've my CEO recommended to me, and I started listening to a podcast called Founders, and
Okay, yeah.
it's this guy who reads all these kind of autobiographies and biographies of amazing people, and normally
Hmm.
business leaders, and um, dissects it into like an hour podcast and talks about their past history.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and it's really, really, really
I'll have to
insightful.
have a little look and
Yeah,
see.
you're learning from the people over the past 5 decades that's been the most successful in the world, right? And
Yeah.
there's lessons learned to be had. And one of them, for example, the Red Bull. founder.
Yeah.
No one knows about it, and he intentionally pays to keep his name out of media. He doesn't do any interview. He
Oh wow.
do behind the scenes, and he wants the brand Red Bull to be what people know. And I mean, Red Bull is one of the most market heavy
Yeah.
brand. At the same time, the founder and CEO wants to have zero limelight
That's
intentionally.
interesting.
So there are some ways to go about it, but I basically to go back to your question, I think it's up to you if you want to build your personal brand. It takes
Hmm.
time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It takes decades of effort, uh, either intentionally or unintentionally. It takes time. So don't wait for you to be in that position. And then partly to be in that position, you probably need that network to get there initially. So
Yeah.
yeah, myth.
And I suppose what Red Bull have done from even my perspective, without listening to the podcast or going too much into the detail of kind of researching them, is that they align themselves with cool people who are doing cool stuff, whether it's in like sporting or different kind of industries, who are real people who will then be the face of it, I suppose, and kind of representing them. So I suppose he's probably gone about it that way, whether without him being the face of the brand, he's actually aligning with different people who are doing cool stuff, and whether it's in sports or whatnot. So then there's real people, I suppose, in front of it, not him. So I
Yeah.
suppose he's maybe just pushed other people in front of the brand rather than himself. So yeah, so it's a good point there. The last one. So truth or myth? AI will take over the role of a salesperson.
Oh, okay. Um, there's partly truth to it and partly myth to it, I think. This
Hmm.
is a very interesting and very topical question. So
Yeah.
salespeople, yeah, let's put it in a more general term, and then I'll come back to why this matters and more answer it more in a salespeople specific. At the moment, the way I see it, AI is unfortunately replacing more of the entry level jobs. Things
Yeah.
when you look at one of the industry that's being impacted the most, say like developers and coders, uh,
Mm,
you still need all the kind of like the senior developers to be able to check the work and do the additional bit on top. But where it's being more impacted, unfortunately, for the younger generation, is people who's just entering into the workplace. People who's doing more, should I say, replicable jobs
yes.
by AI,
Yeah.
um, and that is becoming more and more of a thing. So I think you do need to be able to work in an area where the human element is necessary, and
Mm,
it comes back to sales. So sales as well. When it comes to um, what we call SDRs and BDRs, people that's doing the outreach, developing the initial outbound leads, that's becoming more and more replaced by AI or
hmm.
being. We are trying to augment things by being able to empower our staff, and I think a lot
Yeah.
of companies are going that way. But then there are some companies that's just replacing it entirely. So there
Mm,
is that risk. But when it comes to the final bits of sales, it's that human connection is not something that can be replaced. And for us as well, we are actually embracing some of the AI elements, and
hmm.
then we're differentiating ourselves by being that much more personalized and more human connections. So I'm sure it's similar for you in the content world.
Yeah.
We are in this world where there's infinite amount of content available, and the things that to make you really stand out is either you need to be credible, you need to be something different. Um, you need to find ways to stand out in that sea of content. And same thing with AI sales. I think there's so much AI sales going on. Some that
Mm,
looks really realistic. It's
yeah.
one of those mass-produced emails, but to stand out, you just need to be more human, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. No, you're right, and I suppose all those points that some of the repeatable tasks or the things that can be used by AI, great, or kind of use it to speed up the process or do research or whatnot. But I do think people are always going to buy from people and that human element, and even kind of to train AI in kind of what you're trying to get it to do. But
Yeah.
things like with content, because of the likes of ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, there's so many different things, Claude, that there's loads now that people can use, which is great. Means more people are starting to post more content, but also it is means that a lot of the content's all looking the same. And
Yeah.
so doing things like even like this, showing, who you are, building, your personal brand of being visible, even if it feels awkward, because it feels awkward to most people, and not everyone is super loud or extrovert. But that's the way I think people can get across, who they are, build that kind of trust as well. But also it's about being consistent and adding value to your community, and not just posting the same old stuff. So it does still take that human, I suppose, element and intervention of kind of what do you want to be known for, which is what I always say, and what value do you want to bring to the community, because there's no point of just everyone's posting the same type of stuff, because that's the type of content that will just get scrolled past, because people want the type of content that does the best across platforms is real content where people can see who you are, but also that you've got some value to give, and that you, whether it's kind of to their pain points, or that you understand them, or you can help them achieve their goals. So yeah, I think you're right on both of those parts. Kind of some of it will be kind of used more by AI, but also the human element is more important than ever, isn't it? Now that people can buy into who you are.
I think what's yet to be seen, and for credit wise, this is Professor Galloway's thought, not my own original thoughts. But
Yeah.
there's two types of instances where technology has either replaced or augmented jobs. So
Hmm.
one instance is in the era of typists, when you
Yeah.
had a typewriter, and it's
Yeah.
actually not easy to delete, because you can't delete. You have to either start fresh or write it out, etc.
Yeah.
When word processor, like now what we know as Microsoft Word or Google Docs, came to be, the entire kind of professional typists pretty much
Hmm.
got eradicated, because anyone could rewrite documents really easily without needing
Mm.
a typist. But then the other kind of technology evolution is something like the ATM machine, or ATM machine stands for automatic teller machines. And
Yeah.
back then, now it's kind of pretty much gone anyway. But back then, when that technology first launched, we used to go to banks and have bank tellers, and they'll tell you how much you have in your account. You'll be able to withdraw from
Yeah.
them, deposit from them. When ATM machines came about, bank tellers didn't disappear. They just the way they work changed, so they became more upskilled. They'll be able
Yeah.
to tell you about loans or financial products, and they were working at a more high-skilled labor, instead of being a personal ATM.
Yeah.
So I think what we don't know yet is it going to go the way of the typist or way of the ATM? It's probably going to be a combination of both, depending on what your role actually is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think like with everything now, it's about evolving and adapting with the times, isn't it? And I think it's you know, the old school mentality sometimes can work, the kind of traditional ways of doing sales, but it is about adapting and kind of learning and kind of evolving as we go. Because if not, what I'm seeing even from working with salespeople on their personal brand is, if you aren't evolving, then you will just be left behind, because there's so much out, even from like I say a research point of view, or what you can do before a meeting. It's so much quicker now to be
Mhm.
able to, like you said, even upskill yourself to before the meeting, be prepared and be ready, and kind of have all the information you need about that prospect before you get into a meeting, for example, or before you get to that interview. There's so much more you've got access to. So almost like utilizing it and evolving with it will help you stand out as well.
Yeah, I would say go the extra mile if you really
Yeah,
stand out. That's the only way.
yeah, I love that. And I suppose for you personally, as your responsibility has grown, and I suppose even as you've navigated your own career, has self doubt shown up for you, or kind of imposter syndrome? And if so, how have you coped with it, or how have you managed it? And if not, that's totally fine as well.
All right, you're asking all the hard questions. Um,
I said to you before, and so just so everyone knows, I didn't kind of give you kind of any prep of what I was going to be asking, really, because I want to, I suppose, get the real, and I suppose your real thoughts on what you've experienced or not experienced.
I think I'm not sure if it's just me personally, right? So I don't know how other people feel, but in my case, self-doubt, it doesn't disappear when
Yeah.
and then by the time you get comfortable with it and it does disappear, then it's time to step up. You're stepping up to the next level, and it comes back.
Yes.
At least from my personality, seems a bit counterintuitive, because I work in sales,
Yeah.
but I haven't always been the most, or I'm still quite, in some ways, I have been quite an introverted person before. And I think that also comes with it. So self-doubt never goes away,
Hmm.
but the stakes keeps increasing. And then at a current stake, self-doubt goes away when you build comfort. I think you become comfortable and then the stakes increase and then the doubt comes back. I think the easiest
Yeah.
way to describe it is, mm, say when you go like, I don't know if you've ever been, but skydiving, say roller coasters. You're in
Yeah.
a theme
Yeah.
park when you're young. Now probably not so much, but when you're young, when you go with your kids, they're scared. Oh, daddy, I don't want to go on it. They look at it and it looks really scary. So I was in Shanghai Disneyland this summer with my son. He's 7. My son's.
Oh, how lovely.
And we went on this Tron Legacy ride, and
Yeah.
he was scared and he was like umming and ahhing and says, I don't want to go. You guys go and I'll wait at the exit.
Oh.
He went on, and after the first time, he just wanted to go on it again and again. I said, I thought you were scared. And he goes, no, it's great. So I think the point I'm trying to make is you confidence just doesn't come naturally for
Mhm.
confidence or lack of self-doubt or whatever. You build confidence by having done something. I think confidence is driven through action rather than
Mhm.
you're born with confidence. So
Yeah.
if once you have done it, then you're no longer scared. You no longer have self-doubt. So I think having self-doubts is normal. It's just how we are as human. The only way to get through that is to actually do the thing that scares you. And once you have
Yeah.
done the thing that scares you, hopefully it won't scare you anymore.
Yeah. That's a really good bit of advice then. I'd say majority of people that I speak to, and obviously a lot of people that I work with are kind of leaders or very senior, whether it's CEOs or VP of sales or whatever kind of their role is. But think pretty much all of them. I don't even know. I think yeah. I can't remember in a time when someone said they haven't experienced self doubt or imposter syndrome, but it's almost like that quote of feel the fear and do it anyway. So it's normal to feel some kind of self doubt or imposter syndrome or what I'm what am I actually doing or this feels out of my comfort zone. But it's a sign that you're doing something right. And like you said, once you've experienced it once, you've done it a couple of times, it will start to get easier, and then I suppose it's again about that evolving, isn't it? And not just doing things that feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just in personal career, but as a person working in leadership, as a leadership,
Mhm.
I think part of being good at as a good leader is doing something or acting before something becomes comfortable, right? You can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Like you can't have all the right facts and everything in line. Sometimes you need to act before that comfort arrives. And in your personal career, that's
Mhm.
the other way around. Once you step up, um, I think it's natural to feel that way. But that also
Yeah.
means you're progressing because if you
Yeah.
never felt that way, you're staying still.
Yeah. Totally. I agree. And I suppose for you, have you got? And again, it's putting you on the spot a little bit, but a top three tips for ambitious professionals who want to progress faster and I suppose be taken seriously in their careers if they've got big goals they want to progress they know that they know where they want to get to or they have an idea, but have you got any kind of I suppose top three tips for them to be able to progress their career?
3 tips. Okay, so I think the first one will be hone your craft. Be especially earlier on, be genuinely good at what you do, and
Yeah.
ideally be genuinely good at something rare. I think it comes in 2 flavors. In some ways, if you're working in as an like say an accountant or a lawyer,
Hmm.
um, marketing, and in some ways sales, but sales you kind of need to own that um, your industry because networking is a huge part of what makes a good salesperson.
Yeah.
The jobs that's a bit more commoditized helps you move around. So if you're doing marketing for Bang& Olufsen, it doesn't mean you can't tomorrow go and be marketing for Tesco's, for example,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, if you are highly ambitious and you want to keep climbing, having your rare niche where you're massively useful for a company,
Hmm.
irreplaceable, and it has to be you. Yeah, hone your craft in that. I think that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else.
That's a
Second,
really good tip, like get really good at what you do first.
yeah, 100%. Because I mean, like we mentioned about personal branding being
Yeah.
loud, there
Yeah.
needs to be substance underneath. No matter
Yeah.
what else you do, all these hot tips, quick tips, without substance underneath, it's meaningless in the long term. So
Yeah.
yeah, your craft is first one. Second one will be credibility. We talk about it. Um, be patient, build
Yeah.
your credibility, build your network. What
Hmm.
I would say is build your network, your relationships, and your credibility before you need it. Um,
Yes.
if you try to build it when you need it, it's either too late or it's fake. I'm not.
Yeah.
You're not reaching out to people if they know you want something and you're trying to build a relationship. That's not credibility. Building relationships
Totally.
with people that you don't even realize you need them, and
And
then
a lot of
one day.
people do wait till they need something, don't they? Then, oh, I actually need to do this now, or I should make these connections. But like you said, it's how you've been able to build meaningful connections is speak to people, get to know people, whether you're in a role, out of role, whatever the situation is, whether you want to know, just get to know people, I suppose, and add value where you can, not just when it's
100%.
when you
100%.
need something.
Yep.
How have you gone about doing that, or what tips, I suppose, sorry, just going into that a little bit more, to
Mhm.
build relationships if you don't need anything? Like how would you start that?
Yep. So I think what people easily think normally is
Yeah,
about building new relationships.
yeah,
Firstly, I'll focus on cultivating existing relationships.
yeah.
So I'm still in contact with almost all the companies, like close colleagues that I have left those
Oh,
companies.
lovely. That's nice. Yeah,
It doesn't need to be, massive, just occasional check-ins, meeting ups, and being able to maintain the relationships you already built. Even though it
yeah.
sounds very obvious, it's actually becoming maybe not a lost art, but people are moving at such a fast-paced life that
Mhm.
once you move on to something, you forget about all the people that you used to know.
Yeah,
Maintain that relationship, I would think, with the first step. That's a very easy, low-hanging fruit. And it's, even if it's from half a decade ago, you can still reach out now and say, hey, I was just reminiscing, looking through my old contacts, just thought of you, and I thought it's been a while we spoke to each other. Just
yeah.
say hi. That would be a great start. And then if you
Mhm.
want to look at building new relationships, I think it's just finding commonality, just being useful for someone. Stop
Yeah,
thinking of how is this person useful for me, which
yeah. So
it
true.
is, it's quite normal in human nature. But if you can be useful for other people, I think trying to just have no agenda, I think
Yeah, that's good.
that's a good way to start.
And
And
people can feel it, can't they? If like you're a good person, and generally, I think people want to do business with good people. So I think, and I suppose even a good way to do that, for example, on LinkedIn, is if someone's posted a bit of content, you could message them and like talk to them about the content or compliment them or ask them a question. But let's say they post about something, you could share a resource or something helpful, or a podcast that you listen to that they may like, or a YouTube, whatever it may be. I suppose it's just like you said, no agenda and caring, isn't it, about people?
yeah, yeah, I think if I were to give one top tip for building new relationships is
Hmm.
ask questions that you genuinely care about, like want to know, and
Yeah,
give a shit.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, the small talk is small talk. That's normal. But people ask questions that genuinely actually don't want to know the answer to, or don't not
Oh
interested,
yeah, they're not
but asking
listening.
for the sake of it to build conversations. Even if it's completely random questions, if you ask questions that you actually genuinely want to hear the answer to, then that kind of the kind of like genuineness kind of
Yeah,
plays over, and I think that's how a natural conversation forms, and that's how a relationship
definitely.
forms. So yeah, ask whatever's on top of your mind. It could be something that
Yeah,
you're interested in, but ask
yeah.
genuine.
Or even if they've done something, you have a look at their profile, their LinkedIn, and they've done some volunteer work, or they've gone to a particular university, whatever it may be. Just be curious, isn't it, and actually caring, and like you said, asking questions, and generally wanting to know the answer. And I suppose I don't know if you've done this at all, but something that I work with, well, I'm getting more clients to do, is to send voice notes on LinkedIn as well. So
Mhm.
people can see you're real, especially for new relationships. Not you're not a bot, but two, you can get your personality across. You can ask those genuine questions, or you can give that value. You only got a minute to talk anyway, so you're not going to be rambling on for too long. But it's a way to show that you're real, that you care, and I suppose bring out some of your personality in a voice note.
That's good.
Sorry, so I interrupted you there. Have you got the final tip?
Yeah, final tip. I think final tip would be clarity. Have
Yeah.
so it's kind of like the Sun Tzu Art of War kind of thing, but it's less
Yeah.
about knowing yourself, but having clarity in how you fit in. I think if I were, this is one of the things that I wish I did more when I was younger as well.
Mhm.
But people, when I see people that succeed and people that get to a certain point and haven't really succeeded, I think one of the kind of common things that does stand out for me is people get very good at what they do or they know about their area very well. But
Mhm.
ultimately, whether it's within your team or within your company or within your industry or even like within how the world works in general, what you know and what you do is a very small cog of the entire machine.
Yeah.
Um, and if you only really know that little area and don't see how this fits into the wider team, wider company, and everything else, it becomes very difficult for you to progress. And also, when you get to that, even if you do progress, when you get to that level, it's very difficult for you to see things, the bigger picture, and being able to, how people say, reading between the line, reading the room.
Yeah.
You only do that if you know how everything fits in. So learn about how organizations actually work, learn about how the industry actually works, not just in your field, but maybe with the vendor relationships or
Yeah.
maybe on the technical side. Like branch out a little bit. And especially nowadays, there is so much information out there. It's not difficult to learn more and
Yeah.
ask more questions. Don't be afraid
Yeah.
to ask questions and have clarity in where you belong, what your industry is, just everything in general. I think that would be a good tip to her.
Yeah, that's great. And like you said, it's knowing the bigger picture as well, isn't it? And there's no excuses now because you can research things, you can find out information, self-learn, so easily. So the world is your oyster if you actually just, I suppose, commit to it and wanting to ask the questions, or if you've got a question, find it out, find out the answer,
Yeah.
and kind of learn. Then that's great. And I suppose for you personally, and this is a final question, but if you could talk to your younger self at the start of your career, what's one piece of advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
Mm, my younger self. I think this there's two elements. One is be patient. Treat your
Yeah.
career as a long game. And you know, I I think we, especially in the modern world, more so now, and but when I was younger as well, you're impatient to get to that next level or keep climbing, or you see people around you that's succeeding. It's over the length of time, it
Mhm.
averages out. So people might be getting ahead, people might be look like they're lagging behind,
Mhm.
but ultimately, you'll have to see what happens 10 years later, 20 years later, and then
Yeah.
time. And so treat it as a long game, be patient, and do the best you can at the point in time. And the
Yeah.
second thing is, if I looking back there, I had some great managers, and then some worse managers. Both have
Mhm.
learning opportunities. You learn how not to be like someone, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
you learn from great mentors. But I feel like where I grew the most is working with some great mentor-like managers. So this is not an easy thing to do, especially when you're first starting. It's not something you necessarily have a choice, but if you do have
Mm.
a choice, don't just look at the brand or the title. It's look at the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, even if for the next 5 years there, it's 5, 10 years, I don't know how long you'll stay in that role for,
Yeah.
even though it might not be your ideal title or the company, that will come later. The more experience you have, the more choices you have later on. But what
Yeah.
you learn during that early career, for me at least, I found this is one of the reasons why I left the financial world. It was not something I enjoyed. And
Yeah.
linked, do what you enjoy. I think if you do what you really enjoy and you're passionate for, just like your hobbies,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
within my own ability, I'll be the best possible at it. And I think I'm very lucky to have done the industry change and found an industry and found something I really enjoy doing. And yeah, if I had to give an advice, I would have asked myself to do that earlier.
Yeah. Well, I love that, and I think that big one of kind of do what you enjoy doing. And I suppose if you don't enjoy doing it, then it's your sign to make a change because there's so much opportunity out there now.
Yeah,
And if you just apply yourself and, like you said, learn from managers learn from people who are around you, and almost be a sponge as well, isn't it, as you're kind of growing. I think at any stage of your career, even as a leader, you can still learn from peers, you can learn from your team. That it's always been, I suppose, a sponge and absorbing.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm very blessed right now. I have a great, so I report to my CEO and then the leadership team around me. I'm learning a lot from them. And I think in your early days of career, even now, until while you're still progressing, I think that is pretty pivotal in your
Yeah,
progression.
yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I've learned a lot, but also I feel like it'll be some really great tips, and I suppose stories for the people who are trying to progress their careers, or they've progressed but they've just maybe kind of got some things that they're trying to work on, whether it's kind of around AI or kind of getting the most out of their teams. Really enjoyed having you on. And are you happy for people to connect with you and kind of, I suppose, send out a connection request on LinkedIn, or how would you prefer to people to kind of connect with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Minsok. Really enjoyed our chat. And I will be back as well tomorrow for those that are listening. And I know some of you watch it on recording as well. So I will see you tomorrow. But really appreciate that chat, Minsok, and learned a lot from you today. So thank you.
Thank you, Keisha.
You're welcome. Bye bye. See you soon.